How to win friends and influence people. 6 ways to get people to like you. We're at principle 1, which is become genuinely interested in other people. Dale Carnegie shares a most interesting story about a young banker who was tasked with the report to get as many details as he could for a major corporation that they were doing business with. And he knew of only one person inside the corporation, which was the president, to get that information. So he went up to the president's desk, and as he was being ushered in for the quick brief visit, his secretary leaned in and said, "Hey, I don't have any stamps for your son today." And so as he sat down, the president said to him, "I'm looking for stamps for my 12-year-old son, and I really don't have a lot of time today." He says, I told him what I needed, and he says, "We spent less than 5 minutes together." And he says, "He just didn't have time for me." And he says, "I walked out kind of depressed and thinking, man, this isn't a very good deal." And he said, "Then later on in the day, I thought to myself, stamps, 12-year-old son." He says, "We have a foreign banking department that gets stamps from all over the world." So he says, "I went down and collected all these stamps that I could. And I went back to this president the next day, and I simply sent a message into him saying, 'I have some stamps for your 12-year-old son.'" And then he says, "Do you think I was ushered in with enthusiasm?" He said, "You have no idea how enthusiastic this president was. He came in, invited me in. We looked at all of the stamps." He says, "Oh, my son, he's going to love this one." And he says, "We talked about stamps for 30 minutes. Talked about his boy, the stamps, pictures, stories of his family." He says, "It was absolutely incredible." He says, "Then for the next hour, he asked me, what could I do to help him?" Wow. And then he says he told me everything that he knew. He says it was more than I needed for this report. Then he even called in some of his subordinates and asked them for their information. Then he called some associates and asked for information. He said, "I had a wealth of knowledge." All because why? Because he became genuinely interested in that president and his family, listened for what was important to them, and became genuinely interested. My friends, it works. It's real. Become interested in other people, and magic will begin to happen in your life.